Should have all rights for the entrance of the family. Senator Ernst, please escort the family to your seats. Thank you. Please be seated. My name is Don Ferguson. I'm a pastor as well officer. I've been asked by the family to be the facilitator for this service. You might have noticed when you come in, our Legion flag is a half mast. And that's for Elizabeth II and for Gary. He's always wants to see us. Being here in the hall, the Canadian flag and our branch flag are great. That's in honor of Gary. I'd like to call on our Padre now, Padre Anthony. It's in here. Anthony Devagracia for the opening prayer.
Faithful God, we thank you today for the life of Gary, and we celebrate its impact upon our lives. We thank you for the friendship he offered, and for the joy, for the strength, and for the peace he brought. We thank you for the service he rendered to our family, and for the love he gave while he was with us on earth. We pray that all the good in Gary's life will be remembered and will be a source of inspiration to our younger generation. That all that was important to him will be carried on by those who follow, and that everything in which he excelled will continue to mean much to us now that he is gone. We ask you that he may go on living in his children, his family, and his friends, in their hearts and in their minds. We ask you that we who were close to him may now, because of his death and his celebration of life, be even closer to each other. We pray for ourselves, we who are tested by this death. We ask that you comfort us, O God, that you console our grieving hearts as we celebrate the memories of God. Amen.
Thank you very much, Padre. Now we're going to call on the present CEO of Gary's Old Squadron, 442 Search and Rescue, Lieutenant Colonel John LeBeau.
I think when it's said that it's Gary's Old Squadron, it's not far from true. John LeBeau, current CEO 442 Squadron and active as well helicopter rescue pilot. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for family and friends. It's an honor, real honor, to do this work here. I'm speaking on behalf of all the active community of the search and rescue. So let me start with a couple stories that's happening now and for the last few months. And I'll tell you why. So we had a gentleman fell from a roof, very gravely injured that needed evacuation, just on St. Lawrence River, close to Quebec. And the civilian crews came along, tried to rescue the person, unable. They called military SAR. We came in, and we looked at the situation. We couldn't see much more than the civilian agency. But we had the idea of deciding to get all the emergency services vehicle on the beach, turn on the light, and we did. We saw a couple lights in the fog, we landed, picked up the person, brought him back to safety. Not too long ago, a hiker was stuck in an avalanche in the just north of Vancouver in a very precarious situation. And again, they called the civilian, couldn't do it, weren't able to have the tools and the expertise to do it. They called us the military search and rescue. We came in, we decided to go around the cloud from tree to tree, and made it there. That's how we go as well. The boat sinking with 2 people on board, and tremendous storm at night. And once we got on scene, we looked at the situation. It was very tired and difficult to actually effect the rescue. We saw a cruise ship passing by, and we decided, hey, let's divert the cruise ship, do a little bit of a shield for the sea state, just enough to do the rescue. Not too long ago in the fall, we had 300 people in a landslide in Agassiz that we were called to go to see what we could do. Without respecting much more protocol, we launched 3 helicopters to rescue those, and we effected the rescue. So why am I telling you stories that are in the present right now? If you look at Gary, we have hundreds and hundreds of stories, like amazing stories. I don't think what I would give to fly a rescue mission with Gary would be absolutely an adventure. So there's a reason for this. Like people like me, when we're trained in the military, to do good at giving us the skills, the hands and feet to fly the helicopter. But as far as decision making, as far as risk management, and having the intellectual creativity to do what needs to be done, it's really not up to the people of the community to start the community. And I had a great mentor. I had like Chibets, Go, and Mercer, just a few that were really good mentors to me. Those people I mentor as well from, and we're talking about Colin Windman and Jay Weissman, just to name a few. And those people have great mentors, and it's amazing pilot. So Gary was their mentor, and he was there to do amazing missions with them. And Gary wasn't much about the big discourse, but very much speaking about his actions speaking for him. So Gary has left a remarkable presence in the search and rescue community, and really, I know that was one of that shaped the community very deeply. So the message to the family, great messages for us. You might think about Gary in the past, and you might tell all the kids the stories about the rescue in the past and all the parts of the life and stays spectacular. But very much, Gary's DNA is very much ingrained in the way we do business today, and Gary does save life even today. So, rescue.
Thank you very much for those remarks, Lieutenant Colonel. I guess right now we're going to ask for the Godfather. Oh, Godfather, you're here. President, you have a few words?
Okay. Any other good?
Very good.
Let me off the cuff here because Flath got me again, you know. I didn't get the last word. I think asked me if I'd like or something out from the reference to Gary and the Risk Association. Step up to the lake.
Hello. I'll start over again. I didn't ask me if I'd write something up for reference to Gary and the Risk Association of Canada. And I thought that I was writing up for her, which is going to have a handout or something. She didn't, so I don't have it, so it'll have to be off the cuff. Anyway, Gary always gets the last laugh in here. I've only known him for about 50 years or so. And what I do want to say about Gary, I think about the Paramedic Association of Canada, is that he's been a life member since practically day one. And if there's any assistance required to do anything, any work to be done, always with donations all the time to help make things work. It didn't matter what it was, he was front and center. He attended all of our reunions he could. I love him, and one of the time he said he was doing something he never told her, you see, so I'll keep that in my old cuff. But he was very, very active in the association. For that, we want to thank him. And for Eileen for letting him go. Gary, I'll just tell you one story that I'm going to take up all your time. And that is that Eagle River, I'm sure a few of you know where that is. I think I seen that CDS here. You'll know all about that years ago. Anyway, Eagle River was out of East Bay Labrador, the fish camp. And you had to be a 2-star general in the book to get in there. And it was a great system, and it cost the Canadian government very little money. Well, some of the things that showed up in the paper was an SNR, search and rescue, and they built them out with salmon or sex. I haven't seen any girls in there, so I don't know who did the butt to who, so you'll have to take it yourself. But anyway, it was a great fishing spot, and I'll tell you, if you don't mind, just a couple stories because I don't have other stuff. We had one gentleman from England. He was a rear admiral of the British fleet, and he wanted to sneak over to Oregon and get a couple extra days fishing in. So they had a falcon or a vicar or something flying over, and he get up to the camp a day or two early, and we had brand new boatman. And there's the main river, the back river, and so forth. So the boatman, threw onto the back river, and then there's a cable that goes across from the back river over the main falls and so forth. And that's probably about 30, 40 feet high. The falls coming down, it's a lot of water. And they had a buoy anchored in there. And
game plan is the boatman would we hook onto the front of you'd have a cable on the other line, going across, and just kind of ease your way up the front end of the boat and do your fishing. Well, the boatman wasn't clear in this, so he had the front end hooked onto the front end, and he hooked the buoy onto the back end, of course, it went sideways in the water, and sank. Well, he said to Sir Nigel, he said, Sir Nigel, jump to the shore side, and they did, and they both survived, and got back over to the camp. Sir Nigel lost his flint that moon rod, and he lost his camera, but anyway, he's more worried about the boatman getting into trouble than anything else. So, an old beer camp there, we're all sitting over there, and Sir Nigel was telling us the story of his episode that day. And, you know, I wanted to thank everybody, and so far. And then he said, you know, he said, the boatman was horrible. He said, this is the first time in history, he said, I've ever been told to have been in a ship by a corporal. So there you go. But anyway, very love fishing, and I'm sure that was one of the best places they ever had. I'm sorry I don't know what other those, but he was a great asset to our organization. And on behalf of the Barrett Association of Canada, all serving and retired Sartex, I want to say thanks, Gary. Very well done, Bill. Can't work without my cold notes. Anybody from high school in the 40s and 50s and 60s knows what cold is. Greetings, comrades, family, and friends of Gary. We're gathered here today to remember, honor, and celebrate the life of a departed comrade. Just a couple of pages here, small print. A reflection of our friend and comrade Gary Flath. What can a mere mortal say about Gary? That he was a man of many titles. He was a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, an uncle, and a friend to those that knew him, and a special friends to those that knew him well, and along with many more titles that I am unaware of. Gary was a man of firm opinions, along with an abiding sense of humor. He loved to entertain and tell stories about his life and travels. Gary was a proud Canadian and was very deeply committed to his family and his career in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Gary's last position of responsibility was president of Branch 17 of the Royal Canadian Legion during COVID times and post-COVID times. The lights are still on and the cold beer is still flowing in the branch. Sign of the job well done. Reflection. The true measures of a man lies not in the material things he leaves behind, but in the number of lives he has touched and made better. By this measure, Comrade Gary Flath was a great man, and he will be missed. And those are some of my thoughts on Gary. Now we're going to call on Gary Christie, Gary McCarthy, for the eulogy.
Bear with me and bow down my flag.
And everybody here at the back of the hall, can you need more volume?
I'll talk a little closer to the mic. Everybody can hear me in the back? Thanks. On behalf of the family, thanks to everybody who came in honor of Gary and the family. The Legion did a fantastic job in setting this up for us and in their support over the years. For those that sent such caring words to the community that Gary is part of here. When my wife Diana sent me a message while I was in Hong Kong saying, what do you think about doing the eulogy? I feared we needed to erase through my body. And I was terrified initially because, and then I thought to myself, why? I mean, find myself terrified of doing the eulogy for my father. And then I realized that he's one of the icons of aviation, Canadian aviation, over the last half century. So it is a big deal. So I immediately asked myself, what would Gary do? And I often do that now. And of course, Gary would breeze through this with a drink in a hand and smirk on his face and be anxious to get through it so he could tell another story at the bar. So let's look at today as a celebration of his life rather than a loss of any kind. I'll make this relatively short because I think there's other family members who might want to say something, and others within the group who might want to say something. So we do that. So Gary Flath, husband, father to 5 girls, grandfather to 11, great-grandfather to 8, philosopher, fanatical fisherman, a hunter, tactical airborne interceptor nav, demonstration formation pilot, instructor, search and rescue commander, medal and award recipient, Star of Courage, airborne firefighter, low-level mountain flying instructor, and I even got him to fly in any submarine warfare Aurora in the circuit and land a 747 freighter just to get the rotor head out of him. It's a career and a life to be proud of. High bar is set. It's been 41 years that I've known Gary, and he's been an icon within our family. A lot of water has passed under the bridge. I've watched his personality grow from fighter pilot remnants to understanding similar to the Dalai Lama in his last final days. When I first met Gary, I was in the officers' mess in Comox, and I was there for sea survival. I'd never met the man, but I heard a lot about him. Again, terrified before I met him. One of his entourage within the mess sent a message out to him that I was in the mess, and he rapidly joined me in the mess. I got a tap on the shoulder and a whisper in the back of my ear saying, "I hear you're dating my daughter today." He enjoyed scaring the hell out of me. But it was all turned fun, as it always does. I saw him angry a few years later. And this is an individual who did not want to see him. He's never a pushover, but his negativity never lasted long. It'd take too long to list all features of this man. You're going to be hearing stories, I'm sure, all night tonight, all last night at least, about Gary, and they go on forever with his legend and DNA and he has around here. So courage is the first one that comes to mind. Gary had the ability to be larger than life. His heroism in flying is legendary. Needs no explanation, but and like most heroes, it came naturally to him. bravery in flying was not a decision, it was what he expected of himself. Believe me, nobody was harder on Gary than he was professionally. I remember on a trip of a lifetime to Vietnam, he and I and Eileen and I went into Vietnam. We followed the Ho Chi Minh Trail a bit. We wanted to see both South and North Vietnam. We were on our way to the Cu Chi tunnels, and we had taken a hotel, nice hotel, but it was in a rough part of town. And he mentioned to me in the morning, he was setting up this brunch time, and I was interested in doing a workout and going out and enjoying the hotel. And Gary said, well, I'm going to enjoy the local area and see the locals. And so he did. It took me a while to find him. And when I did, he was surrounded by about 12 nasty looking guys. These were triads. They were tattooed up, they were carrying knives, terrifying looking group, and he was in the middle, and he was holding court. There was vodka being passed around. He didn't speak Vietnamese, he didn't speak English, but he was holding court, and there were smiles everywhere. It was amazing. The man knew no fear. While Gary couldn't help but keep things on edge constantly, it was in his DNA, he was always humble. It struck me with Gary. He had many stories, as we all know, but they were always in an effort to be closer to others. They weren't in an effort to brag. They always wanted to be around people. An example of his humbleness is that when he was off to the reserves, one of his stints in the reserves, he came through Greenwood, he was getting qualified on twin duty, and he had to do IFR training, retraining. He came over to our place and spent the night with 99 kids, and he was concerned that he didn't know the IFR portion of his flying well enough, so he actually quizzed me on for himself, asked what I knew, what I could teach him about IFR flying, because that's about all we did. And I did my best, but after a few minutes, I found out that he knew a hell of a lot more of what he was talking about than I did. But he never let it up. That's where Gary was. Gary respected everyone, and fairness is another quality that was outstanding with Gary. Gary was fanatical about a few things, but fairness was one of them. Treating other people the way they would have you treated. You couldn't have a long conversation with Gary if you were a bigot. All forms of religion, all ethnic backgrounds, all shades and colors were equal and required respect in Gary's mind. I learned a different perspective from Gary about a lot of things, and I'm still trying to follow his creed, actually. I'll never get there, probably. He repeatedly mentioned his grandfather. When he was growing up, his grandfather teaching him right and wrong. He talked about a time when he said something derogatory towards the natives, and the hell was caught from his grandfather telling him, this is not how we live in this family, and we do not raise bigots. And he never forgot it. The last few days of Gary's life, we had some intimate conversations. We had a chat about what I thought. He asked me what I thought about the hereafter. Where do you go next? What do you think? In typical Gary fashion, he was always inquisitive in those areas. And he said, well, Jerry, what do you think? And I said, well, I think there's a hereafter. I think you pretty much get what you expect to get at the end of your life. And he mentioned to me, he said, well, you lit up. I said, that's great. Because then you'll see, if you look at the sky, you'll see between Cassiopeia and the Big Dipper a light flashing back and forth. That'll be me. There's too many other things I can mention. But I'm proud, immensely proud and lucky to have a following on and a family that you provided for. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Gary. If we carry on and do all the stars, we'll give you midnight. We'll persevere. Okay, we have none. We have a song by Barry Pollock. Barry runs the jam sessions over at Region Hall. And he's been around the Valley playing on his guitar for years and years. He was a favorite of Eileen and Gary's both. So this song, Neon Moon, is your favorite, Gary? I'm really favorite. I just figured Gary would be on a cosmic journey as soon as he shows eyes to earth. But he's probably hovering up here now, although you don't know for sure. Good, Gary.
The sun goes down my side, lonesome feeling comes to my door. The whole world turns blue. There's a rundown bar, there's some railroad tracks, a table for two, way in the back where I sit alone. I spend most every night beneath the light of a neon moon. You lose your one and your only, room here for the moment. Watch your broken dreams dancing out of the beat of a neon moon. I think of two young lovers running wild and free. Close my eyes and sometimes see you in the shadows of your smooth blue. But tell me how many tears I sat here and cried. How many lies that I've lied telling my poor heart. She'll come back someday. Open up your eyes, as long as there's light from a neon moon. If you lose your one and only, there's always room here for the moment. Watch your broken dreams dancing out of the beams of a neon moon. Watch your broken dreams dancing out of the beams of a neon moon.
Thank you, Gary. That was very, very special. Gary's on the agenda again, so we're going to hear another thing from him later on. Now we're going to go into an open mic. We'll have it here, the lineup, it's too long to go on over here. We're going to continue with the open mic and slide presentation over in the Legion Hall. So I have an invitation open now. Anybody like to come forward and say a few words on behalf of Gary? Okay, we're going to start first here with something that the President of the Service Officer is going to read from Randy Price. I understand it's an excavation. Very
Board Member Connor, I'm the current service officer of the Legion. I got asked by the family to read a very touching piece from Randy Price, so I will lead off with this. When Randy starts off with, I struggle with this because the impact that Gary had on me, and I'm sorry. This is something that you can't summarize in a couple paragraphs. My first meeting with Gary was in Portugal, at basic helicopter, at basic helicopter training. Where he took me in to learn zero speed auto rotations, which is basically shutting off the engine, stopping in the air, and then throwing the helicopter at the ground directly into you and the landing softly. Gary was impressive. Friendly, calm, professional, extremely skilled, and human. It was one of my best memories from training. My next meeting was over 3 years later, when I was posted at Comox to fly a Labrador helicopter in SAR. There were a dozen stories that I could tell, both limited to two. First, we were on a weekend standby at Hangar 1 in July, and a freighter crew from 409's squadron had a fighter pilot fly in with American Canadian squadrons all visiting for the weekend, including a barbecue down at Air Force Beach. We took the lab to Comox Glacier, landed, and shut it down. We filled the back of the lab with snowballs, and then we mounted a loudspeaker, fired it up, and headed for Comox, requesting clear, unrestricted over the airfield. Did it. With clearance received, we came across the field at 15 feet and 90 knots, and with the loudspeaker blaring, riders of Valkyrie from Apocalypse Now over the beach. Yuri pulled up vertically with the lab, and Mark Kennedy, rest his soul, opened the ramp and jettisoned our cargo snowballs on the crowd below. With a bullseye hit on the barbecue that recorded delayed dinner for an hour or so, and at that point, we headed off for a day of training, hoping that the carnage would be done by the time we came home. I don't think today's military would have quite as forgiving. Thank God we served when we did. The second event was a crash of Firewood 1, a U.S. Navy H-46 Sea helicopter as a Labrador, which was lost on September 12, 1980. When it hit Whatcom Peak in Washington State while trying to rescue an Canadian hiker. We fought wind and cloud to get to the crash site, and Gary was using every bit of his skill to avoid the same fate as the U.S. Navy aircraft. We got 4 SAR techs onto the scene, and they were trapped in a hover cloud of the glacier. Managed to escape and went back to get the SAR techs and survivors. Only to be trapped again. Gary deserves their courage and more for that rescue. In recent years, I've looked forward to seeing Gary at the Royal Canadian Legion and SAR reunions, also knowing that he would be there. He was one of a kind, a big-hearted, generous, giving person who would do anything for anyone. He made a difference in life, and he will be missed. Please pass on my condolences to Elaine and the family from Pearl and I. Please accept us from Randy. Thanks very much.
All I can say is, wow. Okay, we're gonna carry on with the open mic. Anybody from the family come up first?
There's a couple of us that have,
Pardon me?
I think there's a few of us that have like this.
Oh, yes.
I am Danielle, I'm Gary's niece. I've been asked by the family to read a memory that someone has sent in a little writing. Many years ago, I met Gary on a military exercise somewhere in Canada. When and where, I cannot remember at this time, but I remember the many excellent times we had on our visiting to Portland, on our posting to Portage la Prairie. Due to a military pilot shortage, we worked hard and then we made harder. We had many parties and Gary was always there. It was a great time, but more importantly, we enjoyed our time off as friends who cared. We were very sad to hear of your family's loss. Our condolences to all. Below is a memory I experienced about Gary. I was astonished that I knew this Canadian. I never expected to experience the phrase, "It's a small world." Years later, Gary and I talked and laughed. I know the below is a bit long, and I get carried away with memories. I hope this brings a smile to all of you as you read about my friend, Gary Flath. This is from Bill Simon. Well, in Fort Worth, Texas, years ago, I met a Pakistani helicopter pilot who had just met a retired Canadian military helicopter pilot in an airport hotel in a 2-day blizzard in Anchorage, Alaska, just a few days earlier. My new friend was en route to Fort Worth, Texas, while the Canadian was en route to a new job, ferrying oil rig personnel in the Far East. My new friend and I were picking up Hueys at Fort Worth, Texas factories in a few days. We were both taking it easy in a hotel bar at 10:30 a.m. Well, as we could not be flying, it was a natural spot to pass the time. He asked, "I just met a Canadian helicopter pilot in Alaska. I wondered if you might know him." Well, he and I talked, my new friend tried to remember the pilot's name, but he couldn't. After a while, he mentioned in passing how the Canadian pilot would drop off to sleep with his head in his arm, and after a few minutes, he'd wake up and continue talking without breaking the story. Suddenly he mentioned, "Flaps." I think his name was Flaps. I said, "Flath? Gary Flath?" Well, after a few minutes, it all makes sense. We laughed about Flaps and Flath having solved the day's mystery. We continued to warm our hearts for a while longer. Indeed, it is a very simple world. Gary, my old friend, see you on the other side someday. Bill Simon. And I have one of my own. So, you can imagine what it's like to have an uncle like Gary. It takes a while before you realize that he's a legend and something special. For most of your life, he's just your uncle. And today I think we'll hear lots about the legacy that he's left and his amazing contribution that he has made to the military community and inspired generations of search and rescue personnel and military personnel. For me, I think one experience really sums up who he was in my life and him as a person. On my wedding days, there are two brothers, Gary and my dad, Dan. And on my wedding day, it's hard to see everybody and things are busy and it came time for me to dance with my dad. And if you've ever been a bride, you know that moment and everyone's looking at you and you're just looking for your dad. When Gary steps out time, he's like, sweetheart, I'm gonna take this for you, yeah. He can't be here right now, he wasn't feeling not true. But as the older brother, you know, in that moment, he took care of both of us. He stepped in for his younger brother who wasn't able to do the task. And for me, that really just summarizes who he was. He was a lot of things. He loved his country. He loved his family. He loved to fly. More importantly, in a clutch, he was your man when you needed someone. And not may be life or death, as we will hear about his professional career. But for me in that moment, looking for my dad and he's not there, and my uncle steps in, that's who he was, in a clutch. And I will love him and miss him. And just be so thankful for the example he set of living every moment and cramming as much happiness, joy, laughter, and stories into a lifetime as a person could possibly imagine. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here today.
Very, very well done, my dear. Any other family members?
Hi, my name is Flath, and Gary was my uncle. Just here to Danielle. Thanks everyone for being here today. It's amazing and truly a celebration. I have a short story here from Bruce Besterick. I was a Buffalo pilot in 442 Squadron for a bit more than 5 years. As a fixed-wing pilot, I always had a bit of yearning to fly helicopters. One day, Gary flew my wife Wendy and I down to Victoria so we could do a few things. I believe he was working with Rescue Coordination Center at the time. When he finished his work, he flew Wendy and I back home. When we landed, I told him we truly enjoyed the flight, and I thanked him for what he had done. As Gary was an instructor, he came into my office one day and asked me if I'd like to go for a flight. I said I would, and I thought I was simply going as a passenger. I was wrong. He stuck me in the co-pilot seat and started explaining how the helicopter worked, and they were similar, but just a little bit different than the fixed-wing aircraft. The next thing you know, we were in the air, and he gave me control of the helicopter. I admit I was a bit more than nervous, but I settled down a lot when Gary just told me to relax. He told me he enjoyed what I was doing, and he ensured that we didn't get into any trouble. I think that's the false part, probably. That continued over the next few weeks, and because of his very professional instruction, I got pretty good. Good enough to taxi, take off, fly around, hover, and land the aircraft back at the ramp. It was totally done on the quiet, and he knew, and I knew that I was not an official student, but we did it anyway, and it was a ton of fun. Excuse me. I will never forget the camaraderie, professional instruction, and a huge feeling of accomplishment that I experienced when flying under his instruction. He was a true professional, very capable pilot and instructor. I'll never forget how calm he was and cool in every situation while sitting there letting me do the flying. He was a truly honorable and great man. It's been my privilege to know him. Bruce Besterick. Thank you.
Should have assigned numbers to you guys. Yeah, and gals.
Hi, my name's Erica, I'm Gary's youngest daughter. Pardon me, I've smashed up my face a bit, playing with my dog, with my nose. So a little bit, my dad, see if I get through this without falling apart. For those of you that know us really well, I struggled for a long time. And my dad never gave up on me. My dad had always been there for me, quietly cheering me on. He never giving up. A lot of times he blamed himself for not being around because he was fine, his career. Maybe that's what he loved to do. I never took it personally growing up, ever. My dad was a hero. I wouldn't want anything else for me. I had the honor and privilege with the time that we did spend together. He would get posted for 6 months, down in faraway places, and even when he worked in the province, and I would see my dad maybe in a few months, he would be gone, and he'd come home for a couple weeks, and then he'd be gone again. And I was really grateful. When he would be, when he spent time with me, he spent quality time with me. He took me flying, we flew to Alberta, in Alberta from Calgary to Edmonton. We went to West Edmonton Mall, where he tried the water slides that go like this. And I watched, we went together, and I looked beside me, and there's my dad flying off the first time, down to the second. And he laid on the rest of the day, he said, spent on the lawn chair at the West Edmonton Mall. He pushed back out. But he got up there and tried. My dad was, as you know, very political. He liked to argue, debate, how about that? He liked to debate, unless I do too much, then I'd say it's mentioned. He loved to debate, and my dad was very hardline with the war on drugs. And I spent a lot of years in that world, and I spent a lot of years advocating for others when the crisis hit and people were telling me, so I dedicated myself to. And my dad called me up one day, and he proudly was wearing a harm reduction pin on his Legion coat, and he did it because he wanted to start conversations, and he said, daughter, you changed my mind. One day you're going to see me out there with a sign picketing with you to reform drug laws. And that's what I liked about my dad, although he was very opinionated. He had an open mind, and he knew what was right and just. And I was so proud of my dad that day. We spent a long time debating it. And when he had his own daughter have to go through it, that's when he changed his mind. I love my dad, and I miss him so much. And I had a gift to come here and see him and be with him when I was out and I had the spirit and actually loved to see him. I had gone through the floods in the Fraser Valley and I lost everything, but the gift that it gave me was time with my dad. Thank you for all coming here. Sir, I know how much your dad loved you. His best friend. And I was truly. And I have many funny stories, but we'll save that for later on when we're sitting around and doing what that loves best, being at the region and telling stories.
Thank you very much for your come forward.
Gary Flath became my stepdad when I was a teenager. I and my sister are. And have a dad, so when he had a dad, it was quite exciting. Because there was lots of adventures to come from having a dad and having him introduce us to all facets of his life. And we had lots and lots of adventures. We went on many great vacations and we had great times with Gary. And one story I can share with you is I was always going to summer camp as a kid, a lot of us did. And I was going to camp usually for about a week at a time each summer. And one summer I was in a camp with a bunch of girls, all staying in cabins. And all of a sudden somebody came running into the cabins and said, "There's a helicopter in the air." I think it's coming in, it's gonna land. I think it's landing. And there was this helicopter in this big open field, and all of us, including me, because my dad's job was always his job. He was always gone doing his job. I never really got close enough to it to really experience what it was that my dad really did. You know what I mean? So when he got out of the helicopter, we were all standing there, including me, and he's, "Oh, come here." And he had a brown paper bag in his hand, and he said, "You forgot your lunch." Well, I can tell you, that was a highlight of my young life to have that happen. And so that's one story. The other story is growing up in Portage Prairie. You know, it's miserably cold, right? And in the wintertime, I used to walk, I don't know how many miles, well, I guess a couple miles to school. Certainly not as far as he did when he went to school. But he had this flight jacket, you know, with the side zipper, and it was for winter. And he had a pair of pants too. And I wanted to wear the flight jacket because it was really cool to wear that jacket. And it was, you know, something special, something different. And so he said, "Yeah, take the jacket, but wear the pants too." And I didn't want to wear the pants. The pants were not cool. The pants were, you know, warm, for sure. And that was the point of it all, of course. But I said, "You know what, I want to wear the jacket, I can't tell you how many years. In fact, even most recently, my dad would say, "Did you ever wear that jacket I gave you for the winter time? Because, you know, you can really use it out there on the prairies." And he has done that for several years. So that was him, very practical, full of suggestions. But I can also tell you that I can agree with Jerry Christie when he says these things about Gary, and that is he was humble. He wasn't an elitist, even though he wore it, he had the wings, and he was, you know, a hero, etc. He was a man, and every man's man, right? Everybody could sit with him, talk to him, and share stories. And he loved to hear from other people how they lived and what they did. And so his humbleness, we all felt it, we all knew it. And his caring, he cared about people, non-prejudice. He connected with people easily. I mean, you just could go anywhere with him and he would strike up conversations. He said it was interesting to learn about people. He was right. And so he embodied that. He was funny, right? He always told jokes, and he always had a good sense of humor, and he'd always point out to Mom the funny side of life, because she would be, you know, looking at something as a problem or problematic, and he would find that humor in the situation. So, you know, I guess that's pretty much, I mean, that's definitely not all I can say about the man, of course. But, you know, he provided a good life for us. And I can say that we're going to miss him very much, and his jokes, and the time spent, and his wisdom. And so thank you all for being here. And on we go.
It's nice to hear about all the other sides of care. But maybe hearing the stories over and over and over, that was the best. What was it, Gary, hurry up, or yours get cool. Is there anybody else on the panel? Okay.
I'm Lynn Flath and Gary's uncle, and I just want to give you a little bit of background. You heard from Erica. It's really interesting. My great grandparents, John and Nellie Flath, had two sons, Lewis and Carlton. And Carlton was killed May 7th, 1944, down in the Valley Field, and Lewis was killed in the field in France on August 1st, 1944. So you can imagine, what that would do to a family, one generation wiped out. And Gary was, I think, 8, and my father was 6. And Gary, the last times I saw Gary, he told me the last time he saw his father before he died. And he woke up Gary in the middle of the night, and they were at the cottage in Water Lake. His father had him kiss him and said he would see him soon, and that was the last time he saw his father. So my great-grandparents took over raising the boys more or less, and they were amazing people, community people, generous, kind, very good citizens. And they did the best they could, but when you have that kind of trauma in the family, things can go sideways pretty quickly. And we've had a large share of that trauma in our family. And in particular, my father, couldn't be there a lot of the time when he wanted to, but didn't know how to. And what I see today coming here at my age, and is that Gary's the guy that held it together for all of us. That instead of us dwelling on loss and grief and destruction, Gary pulled it together and carried on the best of what I feel our ancestors, our great-grandparents, our grandparents could give. And, for that, I'll always be really thankful for Gary, because it was something that we became, Gary made us whole as a family. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Have we run through the family yet? Everybody's had to go. There's an open mic across the street too. So. And then Bruce up to everybody we got. Is there anybody? Do we have one here?
Wow, what a great turnout for Barry. I mean, what an amazing career. My name is Bruce Stewart, I'm the past president of the Courtenay Legion. Known the family for a long time. Barry had stories. The thing with Barry's stories, they were true. That's the thing, he repeated them, but they were true stories. I mean, he wasn't out there like Atlas. Very true at what he did. Exceptional career. I mean, unbelievable years and the hours of flying. There's not too many people can do that. Maybe Chuck Yeager, those that might know him. Anyways, I'm going to give you 2 little quick stories where you don't need Kleenex. You know what? Anyways, the one was Gary and Fred Hardish used to play crib a lot at our Legion. And they had a little table, and the thing was a bottle of beer for Fred if he won, a glass of wine for Gary. I can't remember who did this, but somebody went in and took all the 5s out of the deck. And anybody who goes crib, the 5s are very important. They played for 2 hours, not realizing there was no 5s. And somebody walked over and this is this. Okay, Barry is very personal sometimes, and he was very upbeat on that one. The next story is, there's a bunch of people here, I don't want to give names because I don't want to get anybody embarrassed or whatever. Gary was going on a hunting trip. He loved to hunt fish, doesn't matter. I happen to be one of the people involved. So we had a 5th wheel in the truck and another truck with ATVs. Well, go to Prince George area, halfway up at Williams Lake, okay, let's call it a day. Go into a Walmart, and there's a hedge along the side. Let's stop there, call it a night, sit down, play some euchre, have some drinks, and enjoy. So, as guys, if you gotta relieve yourself, go up to the hedge. Easy. Okay, that happens a couple of times, and Gary goes out. He comes back. The owner of this other truck goes out, comes back, and he goes, Gary, did you pee on my tire? Gary, what? He said, I thought I was having an antifreeze leak. I bent down, tasted it. It was not antifreeze. Gary being the way Gary is, turned around and said, we'll go to Costco tomorrow. I'll buy you new tires, I'll buy you new rims, I'll buy you everything else. But that was Gary. That's the way he did it. I'm proud to say he was a very good friend of mine. We'd argue, I'm Army, he was Air Force. But you know what? The family and everybody else did a great turnout. Thank you very much.
Was there anywhere else? Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Kim Keppel. I'm the new chairman of the board of directors at the Comox, not Comox anymore, South Edwards Wing, AAA Wing. Gary and I go back to being instructors at Portage Prairie back in the 70s. We both instructed there. He was on rotary wing and I was on fixed wing. And one thing you have to know about instructors is there's a fine line between how far you can let a student go and when you have to stop them. You don't go, you stop them too early, doesn't let it learn anything, and if you go too far, you've crashed into the ground. The one thing that's really difficult is to teach auto rotations, which you alluded to earlier. You gotta pick a fine time when you pull that collected. You do it too high, you fall into the sky. If you do it too late, you crunch into the ground. Well, one day they were at Gravity Green, and they did one of these practice auto rotations, and all of a sudden, Gary blurts out, holy mackerel, you scared the living crap out of me. And then so they recovered from that and they flew back to the base. And when they got back to the base, the guy came running up the roll of toilet paper. He didn't know that the student had pressed on the transmit button at the time. That's a good story I want to talk about. A great friend of mine, Mrs. Sordy, my condolences to the family. One other thing I want to mention, and that's about the Battle of Britain. Battle of Britain is not being commemorated today because of the Queen's funeral. And I know that Gary and I both agree that we shouldn't forget those airmen. And so just for a moment, I'd like you to reflect on those airmen that died for us in the Battle of Britain. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Sharon Campbell, and I was friends with Gary and I for the last probably 10 years now. And I just wanted to reflect on that little story that somebody mentioned about the snowballs on the glacier. When it was Gary's birthday, I believe it was 80th birthday, over at the Legion, Eileen had asked me if she told me a few stories about Gary. I told her that I do a little bit of poetry, and she told me some stories about Gary's life and military stuff. And she told me this story about something to do with going up to the glacier, making a big box of snowballs. And the story that I got, the poem was called Oh Gary Boy. And when I started reciting the song, the poem, it started out because Gary's one of his favorite songs was Oh Daddy Boy. So when I started reciting the poem, oh Gary Boy, la 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 la, and the whole poem recited, had to do it in the song, okay, anyway. And one of the verses was about the glacier and all the snowballs that they made a big box, and they came back to some golf course. I thought it was Glacier View Golf Course, and they threw out a bunch of snowballs on the golf course. So the last word that somebody said about the golf, I don't know about the snowballs, I don't know, did they end up on the golf course and it messed up all the golfers? I don't remember. The story that somebody read off of somebody else that wrote about the snowballs. I thought it was snowballs on the golf course that looked like golf balls. But there's lots of stories, and I'll remember Gary for all his stories and some, because I heard a lot of other stories that we made the poem on. So I really appreciate all those stories, and will really miss Gary. And in my eyes, it's nice to know that we'll see everybody again. Thank you very much. One other thing, I had I made a bouquet of flowers for Eileen, and it was back in the back. We've taken it over to the Legion, but I found two sets of white flowers, and one set looked like snowballs. So I can see them over at the Legion. Thanks again.
Anybody else for a story? You got Sean,
Not really a story. I was an Air Force police here from the 70s, the 60s, and again in the 70s. And I worked in the main gate, so got to meet a lot of people at the main gate. Sometimes not under favorable circumstances. But in order to make ends meet, I also worked in the Corpus Club. And we got to meet a lot more people there as well. Unfortunately, I never got to know Gary at Comox. I did get to know him when I got involved with the Legion here. We would meet him at various sad occasions like this at the Legion or breakfast lunches, dinners, and meetings and stuff like that. And they said just about everything about Gary here today. Coming from the old corporal from the rank and file, I think I have to say something that doesn't have to be said, but I gotta say. Gary was one hell of a nice guy, and he will be sorely missed. Thank you for allowing me to say it.
Thank you, Don. There will be a time for an open mic also across the street at the Legion Time Fellowship. Right now, we have Barry Polishar, blue eyes, fine and correct. That's one of Gary's favorites. all the stories in the area are pretty calm, you know, after maybe a few wets, they might change.
In the twilight, glow I see you. Blue eyes crying in the rain. When we kissed the bargain party, I knew we'd never meet again. Love is like dying ember, only memories remain. Through the ages, I remember. Blue eyes crying in the rain. Someday when we meet up yonder, we'll stroll hand in hand again. In a land knows no pardon. Blue eyes crying in the rain. Blue eyes crying in the rain.
We're now going to proceed with the Newton Poppy tribute. It's on here. Don't lose the hole. The Legion Poppy tribute was designed by somebody up in command. It's along with how members and past members can be remembered, and how we pass on our feelings about them and their service. There's a couple of different prayers here, but right now we have the remains of Gary. They're in a container that covers the blue shroud. In the presence of the last earthly remains of Gary, a comrade, whose last remark and whose spirit still lives. May we as citizens and members of the Royal Canadian Legion be charged anew with a full sense of our duties and responsibilities to our country and our organization. May we ever strive to uphold the principles of unselfish service, which let us to serve our God and our country in time of war and in peace, so that we may continue to serve even unto death. Let us pray. O God, we remember before you those who laid down their lives for freedom and truth. We commend their souls under your gracious keeping, and pray that they may be worthy of their sacrifice. Help us to be faithful and true to those ideals for which they fought and died. May we continue to perpetuate the memory of our departed comrades by our service to country, community, and comrades. And remember the solemn obligation, may we ever pray, Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. We're going to proceed with the last post now. Last post followed by 2 minutes silence and then revalidate. I used to call it reveille, but an old vet said it is revalidate. Colors opposed it, and start our. The act of remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them. We will now proceed with the placing of the poppies led by our Legion Honor Guard, followed by others, members of various organizations, and finally the panel. We're going to, Bill Anderson, Alderson, during the placement of poppies. We'll lead off with President Barbara Lincoln, the first past president, Bruce Ford. The form up in twos, and the second row. Please come forward and close. Phil is filling out with us, and that's what her name is. Family will place the coffees now. Hi, folks, I'm back again while the coffee service is taking place here. And I hope we get the last word on Greg Flath. And this is put up before Gary passed away. He said, the old elk, he said, I always wanted to get a parachute jump in, but the sergeants were going to give me one, and it fell through. I said, Gary, if I live long enough to do it, I'll see if I can arrange it. The arrangements have been made. We'll see all who's fired. The band are going to drop the ashes at 1 o'clock at the Air Force Beach, 1 o'clock on Tuesday morning. They wanted to do it on Monday, but the Queen passing away and that didn't work out, so 1 o'clock on Tuesday at Air Force Beach. And part of that, we're going to drop the ashes all over the street. And for Gary, he's up there, one of the star tank is going to do a football and drop some of Gary's ashes. So Gary, you got it. Thank you, sir. This very office goes I live in a family, we'd like to offer our condolences on behalf of the president, executive, and membership of Branch 17, the World Canadian Legion. I would like to offer a sincere condolences on the passing of Gary. He will be missed. Call now on the Sergeant at Arms to present the Canadian national flag to our president, who will pass it on to the family.
On behalf of the nation and myself, I wish you all great condolences to our
This concludes the Hockey tribute. And can I have my Legion Honor Guard form 2 lines at the far end of the hall? I'm going to call on the Sergeant at Arms to gather up the family and march over to the mezzanine. On behalf of the Flath family, we invite you to a final fellowship in the Upper Legion Hall. Thank you. would like to thank everybody who turned out, and you are now dismissed.